Hi, welcome back to InquisitiveMinds. In today's video, let's talk about some of the essential nodes of n8n. So these are the some of the fundamental building blocks of any automation, whether you are building a basic automation, AI automation, or AI agents. These are the nodes that you will be invariably using them during the workflow creations. So let's get started, and we'll be briefly covering about these nodes, and then we will get onto the n8n canvas and then create a workflow using these nodes and see how they are being used in real time. So let's get started without any further ado. So the first node that we have for today is the if node. So as we have seen in any kind of programming that we have done so far, or any basic logic that you apply, if there is a condition that to be need to be met, then we generally use an if node. So this will help us to bifurcate a workflow based on a condition, whether it is true or false. So generally, as we said, the workflow is a sequence of steps which are being carried out with help of nodes, and then with help of a if node, you can use a condition to branch it out, like on a true or false condition based condition. So the next one is the switch node. The switch node is nothing but an extension of if node, where a if node has only two conditions, like true or false. But then if you have more than two conditions, that is where you use a switch node. And then coming to the filter node, this is more like a again the filter that you would have used in any of your excel sheets and any of the data pre-processing, right? Based on a certain criteria, you filter out data. But in case of if condition, there is a if condition which has both true and false. But in case of filter, based on the condition, the data gets filtered out when the criteria is met, and all the data that is not meeting the criteria gets dropped out. So if you want to filter out some data in your workflow, that is where you use a filter node. And then coming to the edit node, this is more like a the ETL process that you do with data, like no extraction of data or transformation of data. So when you are generally the data flows from left to right, like in any kind of workflow, right? From the time you start the workflow. So if you want to transform the data, or you want to uh, extract some of the data from the input that is coming in from the previous node, and then transform the data, that is where you use the edit node. So it will also help you to tweak the data in the format that you would need it for the next of sequence of steps in the workflow. That is when you use the edit node. And aggregate node, this is like again, based on some conditions, if you have some data that you want to aggregate, you want to pool data, like this is like you are accumulating the data. Suppose you want all the names, all the email IDs, all the company names. So that is where you are aggregating all the data together into some in at the back end, it is more like array of items, list of items, something like that. So you are aggregating all the data. Aggregate node will help us to the take the separate items, the individual items, pool them together and send it across to the next step. Okay, now that we have seen some of the essential n8n nodes, let us come back to our n8n interface and then see how do we create a workflow using these nodes. So just now we have seen the edit node, the filter node, the if node, the aggregate node, and the switch node. So basically we are using these five essential nodes that we have covered and trying to build a use case around it. Okay, so this workflow, what it does is on the click of the trigger, this is a manual trigger that we have already seen in the earlier videos. So when we click this manual trigger, it will read the Google Sheets and read one of the sheet which has this data. This is the sheet it is going to read, which has the name, last name, company, and the email ID. It is going to read the data, edit the fields, and filter out some data, use some condition to branch out, and based on this condition, it will aggregate some of the fields and then send a Slack message. And based on the false condition, it will again try to use a switch node to send a different kind of messages. So this is like a hypothetical use case that we are trying to build to see how do we use these nodes. So I'll first quickly execute this workflow and then show you what happens. So the if workflow is getting executed, you see all the green boxes getting ticked up, and then also a status which is showing you that the workflow executed successfully. And now the final output of this workflow is going to the Slack. A message is being sent to the Slack. So let's go to the Slack and see in the Slack channel if this message has been received. You see, now this while I'm recording this video, it is like 4:49 p.m. and you see this message has been received, And now I'll just quickly go take you back to the screen and then explain you what happened really to get you there. Okay, so now this is a basic manual trigger, and then here this is a Google Sheets node where you're trying to read a first you have authenticated with your Google account and then fetched a document which a Google sheet named the n8n lesson week 2. Okay, in this worksheet we have a tab which is having a sheet 1 which is having this data. So with help of this operation, like we are trying to read the rows from this document and from the sheet 1. Okay, and now and then see on the left hand you have this on clicking of the workflow. We read the data, and the output of this node is that the data is being read, and the data is being presented in different formats in the schema, table format, and JSON format. So for simplicity we are seeing it in the table format. So this is the same data that is being given in this Excel sheet. You see that the same data is being read by the Google Sheets node. Now we are going to the if node. Now we have data, and let us see how do we use the edit node. So in now that the data has got the first name, last name, company, and the email, that is the data columns that you we have, right? So now we want to transform this data into the first name and the last name have to be concatenated, and then they have to be changed to uppercase. So that is what we have done by pulling in the first name and pulling in the last name, and then by using a two upper function to convert them into uppercase. And then we have created a new variable names. You see the full name now has the full name here, email ID, email, and a company name. So these are the new three new variables that we have created from the previous node, from where we got the data in this format. Like no, the variable name here was the first name. You see here the underscores here, the company, the small letters here. But these are the new variables that we have edited using the edits field node. We have created a new fields, and then also we have transformed the data. Now our data is being presented in this way, and then we will be using these variable names and then this data going forward in our workflow. Okay, now we are coming to the filter node. Now we are giving condition that if the email, no, you see the email, this is what we have, right? The three fields that we created, full name, email, and company. So now we are using this email field. If this email field is not equal to, like, if there is like any empty strings in the data that we have in the if the emails field is not occupied, so you see some of the rows doesn't have the email id. So we want to filter out all those rows which don't have the email id. So that is the criteria we are putting here by using the email. This is not equal to just an empty string. So if this empty string is there in the email, just drop them. That is what our filter criteria is all about. And now you see the output of this. When we started, we had 10 items. You see here, there were 10 items when we read the data. When we edited the data, we just transformed. So that same 10 items were there. But after this filtering, the data has been kept, only 8 items have been kept and 2 items have been discarded. These 2 items are where, like, no, you see, where the email is empty. So this is the condition that we have given. So that is how the node has executed, and it has kept the 8 items. Okay, and now let's again go back. Now that we have filtered data, now we are using an if condition. Now, again in this if condition, we are saying if the Gmail is having, sorry, if the email is having a Gmail, if the email does not contain Gmail, and if the email does not contain Yahoo. So that means what we are saying, we want all those mails which do not have Gmail and Yahoo. We want all that data. So this is our condition. We want both the conditions to be met. So we basically don't want to have any mail IDs where we have Gmail and Yahoo. So that we are always having their official mail ID where we can communicate in, like, when we use that data for any of the use case improvement in later stages. And now what happened in this kite, right? In this condition, the true branches, like, you let us go back to the data. Here you have two rows where there is a Gmail and then there is a Yahoo Mail. So out of this 8 entries, we have 2 items which are not fulfilling the criteria. So it has branched out the true path with 6 items. Now the input is 8 items because two were dropped because the emails were empty, right? Now with this if condition, the 6 items have been tracked back, and two items have been fell into the false branch because they had Yahoo and then Gmail as their Gmail as part of their Gmail. Okay, now rest of the mails do have their company names. Okay, so this is how we used it if node. Now we are using an aggregate node to collect all the email IDs, all the company items. Then what did we do? We said no, in the aggregate node, pull in all the emails, okay, aggregate all the emails, and then rename that field as all emails. And then similarly, we have done for the company also. So we pulled all the company names and then renamed it as all companies. So this is how the now we have one item which is having all the emails, one item which is having all the company names. Okay, so this is what the aggregate node does. Coming to the else part, now this is how we bifurcated. For all the true condition, aggregate all the information. For the false condition, the two entries which had that Yahoo and Gmail, right? We were using a switch condition, and then just like trying to say if this email contains, like you see, the email field contains Gmail. Okay, so this is the condition that is being met. And we have another condition which is contains the Yahoo. So we are just like trying to bifurcate the into multiple cases. Now this is one separate item, this is one separate item. When this executed, because there was one entry with Gmail, it went to the Slack, then one entry with Gmail, so that went to this branch. Okay, and then, of course, finally, we used a Slack to send a message saying that, okay, we are trying a test case, and then this is where all the emails and the company names of the messages that we have received so far. So this is the message that you have here for the first condition of the if branch, and then two separate messages saying that this is your user having a Gmail or Yahoo Mail. So these are the two different messages that we have sent to the Slack. So let's once again verify how the whole workflow is being done. So I'm just putting a delimiter here. Let's say now let me run the workflow. The workflow is getting executed. You see all the checkboxes. We have read one item, one Google Sheet, okay, read 10 items of data and used edit field. So the same 10 items remained, used a filter, it turned it into, because of the filtering, now there are 8 items you see here, and then because of the if node, the number of items here are 6, and the 2 items went to the else branch. The 6 items here, because of the aggregate node, they got converted into one item, and that one item is the message that we have seen here. You see all the email IDs have been clubbed together and then that are being sent to the Slack. And on the else path, we again have two switch statements where we are sending one separate message to the Slack. So we see all that also. One from the Gmail, one from the Yahoo. So this is the simple workflow that we created, demonstrating 5 essential n8n nodes. So try practicing them yourself, and we can do the same thing now. Just by now that you have seen the workflow, let us build from the scratch. Okay, so the first, like no, we will start from here and then we will go all the way here. There are only two things that are needed. One is like no Gmail authentication here and the Slack authentication, because that is where you are able to read your own data. Okay, I am starting afresh. This is my new workflow, new canvas. I mean the same canvas, but the new window. So here the first step, I'm starting with the first step. I'm starting with creating a manual trigger to this. Manual trigger just works as is. You just click on it. You see the green box in the tick mark. It works as such. Now we need a Google Sheets node. So we will open this node, and then this node has got many other functionalities, and our intent is to read a Google Sheet, right? So and read the rows in the Google Sheet. So what we need to use, get rows in the sheet. So this is the action that we need, and now we are trying to configure this with our Google account, and we want the operation to be get rows. There are many operations, but then we want to get the rows from. And what are the documents that we have? Now these are all the documents that are there in my Google Drive, but then I'm just reading the this document, and then it has got one sheet. So this is what exactly you're seeing. The name of the file is n8n, week 2, and then this is the sheet name. Or I'll just replace the sheet as test data. Let's see what happens. You see the test data got populated. Okay, and that's it. I'm just executing this node. So you see the data which is there in the file in the sheet of test data is all like being populated. So now you see the tick box here and the 10 items are being read here. Now what did we do? We used a edit node. So let us pull in the edit node. Okay, now the data that we read is of this format. It has a name, last name, company name, and the email. So this is our workflow. Here, what we are trying to do, we are trying to map the fields. So we are just trying to add a new field. The field name is going to be full name, which is in capital letters. And then I just want this full name to be as a concatenation of the first name and some space followed by the last name. Okay. And then I want this to be turned into uppercase. So I'm using the up to upper. To uppercase. Okay. So the first name is going to be the uppercase, same with the name. So see the Pallavi, Patiya has become the capital letters. Okay. Now this is a new field that we created, which is like transformed by from the two fields here. And then similarly, we will add another field. You create a new field, which is like the company name, and then I'm just mapping that to this company. And these are all string values, as you know. And then this is like email ID. Yeah, and then this is going to be this email that we are mapping. Okay, and now I'm just going to execute this step. You see, now the data has got transformed with a different column names, and you also see this changes, right? The data that was here, okay, has been transformed this way. Okay, so now we are done with the edit node also, all the 10 items. Now we are using a filter node now. Now what filtering we want to do? We want to do the filtering on the email. Okay, we'll just use the schema. We want to do the filtering on the email. And the email contains string, empty string. Then we got all the email IDs got filtered, and all the fields that are all the rows which are not having the email ID got filtered out. So this is also done. Okay. Now we are using an if node. The if node again we are going to use the condition that if the email ID is equal to or contains or does not contain, we want Gmail, and the email ID does not contain Yahoo. We want that those things as the true branch. Okay. So now we got the nodes which are having all the mails, all the entries where there are no Gmail and no Yahoo mail. Those two got into the false branch. We are done with our if node also. I'm just trying to reshuffle them to create more space. Okay, now this is how where we are. Now here we want to use an aggregate node. What are we saying in the aggregate node? We want to create a field where all the company names are together, and we want to rename this as all com- all company names, and add all emails. We name this field as all emails. Okay, and then execute this. Now we got like no two new variables where all the names and then email IDs got mapped. So this is also done. And here we were using a switch node. And now we need to create the different branches of the if of the switch node. Here again we are going to base it on the email ID is equal to Yahoo. Then another rule, if the email ID is having a Gmail. Now we need to create our connect with our Slack. Now we are going to, now that we have bifurcated path here, I want to add, so it's better for me to just click on this node and then look for the Slack. And in Slack, I want to, what do I want? I want to send a message. Where is that send message? Messages, send a message. So this is the send message I have. And here again, I'm connecting to my Slack account, and the resource is message. The operation that I want to do is send message to channel. And what are the different channel names? So these are all my channel names. So I'm sending it to this channel, all in it in, and simple text message. All the So this aggregate node is what we want to use, right? To send all the company names and all the emails. All the emails. Okay, now let's execute the step. Let us see. Execute the step. Send message sent successfully. So let's again insert the Slack node here to send the message. Again, I authenticate. Let's say this user whose name is full name is having is not having work mail, and say what his mail ID is. Okay, now this is the same thing that we will execute this. Okay, this is not executed, so we should be able to see this Slack message. See, this user is not having the work ID. And then we will go back, copy paste the same node and attach it to the other branch of the switch case. Our workflow is ready. Now let us go back to Slack and then say this is our delimiter and let's execute the flow. You see, you got all the, I'm sending all the company emails, and this is the message that we have given for the switch case. So everything that you got that. Okay, so now this is how you build. So now we have created this, we have successfully completed our workflow creation and execution, and we have seen how the output also looks like. So try practicing this on your own n8n instance, whether it's cloud version or locally installed. Okay, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.